Hello everybody, Jordan Nelson here. Today we are talking about how to work well with photographers during the wedding day. So let's get started. So if you've been around this channel for a while, you'll notice that this is a different setup than what I typically have for my YouTube videos. I bought some new wedding equipment for lighting and audio specifically, and I'm using that light here today right now. I will link all of that in the description below, the new things that I've just gotten recently for weddings, but I'll do a whole video on all of that equipment here soon. So I'll save that for another time, but at least you can preliminarily check that out in the description below. Preliminarily, what a word. I can't believe I didn't just totally fumble that. I don't even know if it's a word. All right, 5 times fast. Preliminarily. Okay, that's enough of that. This is not typically how I do my videos. I'm usually a lot more focused. Okay, so I received a comment recently about how to work well with photographers, and specifically talking about that time with the couple, where this new videographer was wanting to get some shots and the photographers were fine with it, but they were kind of like, just do it really quick and then get out of there so we can continue going. How do you deal with working with the photographers when you need to get your shots, they need to get their shots, and you're almost forced to do it so quickly because the photographer is kind of monopolizing the time? So first of all, I've worked with pretty much exclusively awesome photographers that have been really accommodating. Now that falls into 2 categories as well. The first category is that they're really accommodating and they're always looking to make sure that I'm taken care of as a videographer, and they're like, you got what you need, you wanna come in here? They're like proactive in thinking for me, which I'm not asking for, I don't need, but it is really nice when that happens. And then the other camp is that they're really accommodating, but they're never taking initiative to be like, hey, do you have what you need? They're just going. And then I have to say, hey, I want to get a shot. Like, I want to break in here. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. They just get into the zone. So I've worked with both of those types of photographers where they're like thinking almost too much for me, and they're accommodating, but they just get in the zone and forget I'm even there, and I have to keep reminding them that I need to get my shots too. But it's always been really cordial. So the first tips that I want to give you in order to have that type of relationship with the photographers is, first, to reach out to the photographer of the wedding that you're about to do. You can get that information from the couple. Introduce yourself, tell them you're excited to work with them. Just kind of start off on that relational right foot. Like, say, I looked at your website, I really love your stuff, and I'm really excited to work alongside you as a team here this upcoming weekend or whenever. That's just not the most common practice, especially if you're a beginner wedding videographer. That'll be kind of impressive. You don't want to be overbearing and start like asking them a bunch of questions off the bat, but just introduce yourself, be friendly. Here's the thing, on the wedding day, you two are on the same team. What's really easy, just as human beings as well, we just always want to butt heads with other people. Oh, these people are just trying to slight me. They're doing this on purpose to make sure I don't get what I need. It's like, that's probably not what's happening. What's probably happening is that you're both being selfish simultaneously about what you need. So you need to have that mindset going in that you're in the same team. The couple paid both of you. Now I know a lot of you videographers are like, yeah, I think that, but the photographers over here just thinking that this is their whole show and that I'm just in the way. You cannot control the photographer, their personality, their perspective on this whole thing. You can only control what you can control. So that first interaction of just being friendly and being excited to work with them, that may hold some weight. What that also does is it gives the photographer that expectation of, oh yeah, there's gonna be a videographer here. Sounds like they're friendly, so hopefully that they'll be considerate of myself as well as the photographer, and they're not gonna try to monopolize the time, because I think photographers have also had bad experiences with videographers who are just like, maybe they have a ton of stuff or they take a lot of time. They're not very considerate themselves. So everyone has their own different experiences. So this is not just like a step 1, step 2, step 3 of how to deal well with photographers. This is people we're talking about. It's always more complicated, but these are just some tips, best practices type things that I'm sharing with you. So that good first interaction beforehand is good. Give them the right expectation. Now, as another practical matter of planning the wedding day with the couple, admittedly, I haven't done this very much, but I think I'm gonna start doing it more in 2020, trying to set aside even just 15 minutes alone with the couple. That way, all of this goes away as far as the shots with the couple, which we all deem very important. I get 15 minutes of, I have the prime position, I can set it up the way I want to, the time constraints aren't such where it's like we're both stressed, the photographer and the videographer are both rushing to get what we need. it's just me and the couple and I can do what I need to do. So I would say if you can talk with the couple and build that into the day, that would be fantastic. So then when you are kind of with the photographer, everything else is just kind of cake. It's a cherry on top. But if you can't end up planning that in, let's say they already have a really tight schedule and they're like, we can't fit this in, or they just decide not to, it's like you're gonna defer to the couple on that. No matter how much you try to encourage them or convince them to do this, they might just not want to, or they do, but then practically during the wedding day, it gets squeezed out because things are running behind. This is a live event type day, so you gotta be flexible with this type of stuff. So don't just bank on, oh, I'm gonna have all this time. Still, let's say you have the photo and video together with the couple and then the videography by itself after. Don't just fall asleep when you're doing photo video and be like, oh, I'm gonna get that time after. Because if it ends up being squeezed out, if you guys are running late, you need to have that in your mind that you need to be on and get as much as you can while you're even with the photographer and the couple. So not just that alone time. So in that instance where you cannot get that alone time, how do you work well with the photographer who may or may not be accommodating? So if you have a good relationship with the photographer, they're accommodating, it can work out in lots of different ways. You just kind of have to communicate beforehand. So some considerations are knowing if the photographer sets up poses and things that work well for videography as well. So sometimes I'll talk with the photographer and say, do you do a lot of moving, walking shots, or do you like a lot of static, or do you do a mix? That helps me know how much of the photographer setup I can just kind of mooch off of almost. What's also helpful with that is that I have a zoom lens, so I can get a pretty good close-up even if it's not me setting up the shot. I don't have to be right up in their grill to get fantastic shots. So I have a 28 to 75 millimeter lens that also pushes in with APS-C crop mode, so it's even past 110 millimeters. So I can really push in there if I like what the photographer is putting out there. Now, if I don't really like the poses that they're doing, and even if I do and I want to do more, I want my own video shots, I have my own ideas, then it's a fluid, hey, I have an idea. You kind of have them in a position, you just took their photo, you have them in a position that I kind of want to start them out at. I'm gonna break in here, is that cool? And they're like, oh yeah, for sure. Like almost every photographer is like, yeah, no, jump on in. Like, I want to make sure you get what you need. They understand that we're both there for the couple, we're both hired. So I think most photographers understand that. One thing to think about as well is that you need to learn to be quick. In the comment that I received regarding this, it said that, yeah, the photographer is like, yeah, go in quick and do this. I don't know exactly the tone they had when they said that, but in reality, yeah, you don't want to be spending forever setting up the shot. So you want to have thought beforehand what you want to do for your specific shot with the couple, and you want to know how to use your camera well and be able to do it quick, because the whole day is kind of that. It's a lot of, you have to be quick, you got to do this fast. The photographer's thinking the same thing. They're usually busting off all kinds of poses as fast as they can, depending on the day. Sometimes you plan super well and things go really, really smoothly and you have plenty of time, but a lot of times you don't. So you do have to learn to be quick, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go in and get the shots. You need to get what you need to get. So having the confidence to say to the photographer, I want to get in here and get a shot, is that cool? And doing so, instead of just kind of waiting for them to ask you or to be done with their thing, you need to go in and say something and say, I need to get my shot here. So that's with an accommodating, good teamwork type thing going on with the photographer, where you go in, they go in, you go in, they go in. Works really well. You could also set it up where it's like, hey, photographer, you do a bunch of things in this location, like you get all of your shots, and then I'll get all my shots in this location, and then when we move over to those trees over there, like 100 yards away, you do all your stuff, and then I'll do all my stuff. You could work it like that. You and the photographer just need to communicate. So if you're working well as a team, that will be an easier conversation. But if they are a more hostile photographer, maybe they're a little suspicious, hopefully you could have dispelled some of those things throughout the day. Like you've been communicating, you've been kind of looking out for them to be like, hey, where do you want to set up during the ceremony? Here's where I'm going to be. I don't want to be in your way. I don't want to just sit in the middle of the aisle in your photos. Like, I'm going to be very conscientious of you while also being able to get my stuff at the same time. So I think being considerate of the photographer will go a long way, so that throughout the day or even immediately, they'll be a lot more trusting and looking out for you as well. But if they are hostile, not very accommodating, they're not really giving you the time of day, you do need to be graciously, patiently, yet confidently and assertively, still do what you need to do. You're gonna need to just absorb whatever kind of animosity that they have towards you. Maybe they're just stressed out or whatever they have going on. I don't know any of the reasons for why they would do that, but you need to just be able to absorb that, not snap back at them, be professional, and just be kind to them and say like, hey, I do need to get in here to get some of these shots to fully create their film. I want to make sure they have a good film, and I need to get in here to get these shots in order to make that happen. And then following up with just being efficient. You're not trying to slight them. You're not trying to do anything to make the photographer mad. It's like, finally they let me in, so I'm gonna take my sweet old time just to kind of, that photographer wasn't very nice or whatever. No, you're there to serve the couple. If they treat you rough, you don't treat them rough. You don't treat them the same way they're treating you. So that's something that I think it's easy to snap back and to just say, I'm not gonna work well with them. I'm gonna give my effort. They're not giving effort to me. Don't do that. Give the effort of teamwork that you wanna have with them. And if they don't reciprocate, it's not up to you. You don't control them, and you just take control of what you can take control of and your responses. So I think that's the best way to do everything in life. All those types of relationships, you don't respond to evil with evil, whatever animosity with animosity, you show grace to them. I know it sounds kind of preachy, but relationally and professionally, during the wedding day, how that works out, I think that works really well. I just think it'll actually practically get you the results that you want to, without burning any bridges or even the couple kind of noticing what you're doing. If you're saying that kind of thing, that shouldn't be the motivation just because other people are watching, but I think that's one of the motivations, to just be professional. I think that'll give you the results and make your film better. Like, you're serving the couple, you're gonna make the film better. The wedding day is gonna go more smoothly than if you and the photographer are butting heads. Like, if they wanna butt with you, don't butt back. Just say like, I'm gonna go and kind of slide past that and do my thing, do the job I'm here to do. And backtracking a little bit here, I'm kind of all over the place today. Sorry, I'm not really paying attention to my notes at all. I'm just talking, so that's how it is today. Is when you do talk beforehand with the photographer about if they do lots of movement or not, just expressing at that point that if they do a lot of static shots, just saying, okay, I'm probably gonna need to kind of break in there more to get some of those movement shots for their film. I use a lot of those in the film, or whatever it is you use for your film. Make sure that it'll line up to say, oh, if you're doing a lot of those types of shots with your photography, that works great. Like, I can kind of mooch off some of those and then add some more things in there that I do for my video, great. But if they don't, you might have to say, hey, I'm gonna need to break in quite a bit. But I'm really not gonna try to monopolize the time. I am going to make sure that you get the time that you need for your photos and that I get the time that I need for my video, but I'm gonna try to be as efficient as possible. And I think that makes photographers really happy to hear that you're not just being selfish, but you're gonna make sure that the both of you get what you need to provide the product for the couple that they need. And who knows, you two could actually make each other better instead of butting heads. A lot of times the photographer's like, hey, this is a great shot, you should go grab that. Or I'm gonna run over here in this part of the reception, or whatever it is. Maybe they notice something about the ceremony setup and they're like, this would actually be a great place. You know, and take that humbly. Don't say like, oh, they're trying to do my job, but that's awesome. Like, they're trying to even give me some ideas and help me out. They're not saying like, hey, get out of my face, you're just a distraction to me or hindering my photography. It's like, that's awesome. And then do the same for them, and I think that'll be a cool teamwork type thing. So if you can have that during the wedding day, it makes the wedding day so much better, and it'll improve your films as well. So those are some tips, very scattered all over the place. I don't even know how you would have taken notes during that, which I don't think y'all take notes on any of my videos anyway. But I hope it was helpful. The main takeaway is just communicate, be friendly, have a teamwork mentality, be confident in speaking up and getting in there, especially if you're new. It's easy to just stay on the sidelines, but then you don't get the shots you need. Be confident, but very gracious in how you interact, and do whatever pre-planning you can before, if you can get that alone time to kind of mitigate a lot of these types of issues that you won't even have to deal with now because you planned ahead. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. I have a lot more videos just like this on the channel, related both to wedding filmmaking as well as video creation in general. So if you're into that, consider subscribing. We'd love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. See you all in the next video.